The second type of poetry that we will be talking about this week is the haiku. Haiku is a poetry that goes back thousands of years. People are still writing them today, and they have become an important type of poetry. Let's look at where it started and what we can do with it. First, it is important to know the language of poetry. Here is a comparison to regular writing. When we think of regular writing or prose, we think of words, sentences, paragraphs, its structure, and it's normally read silently. When we think about poetry, we have to think about syllables, lines, stanzas, rhythm, and we need to understand that poetry is most often read aloud. Where did it all begin? The history of the haiku dates back to the 9th to 11th century Japan. It all started with the courtly people who wrote poetry known as tankas. The tanka is a poetry form that contains 5 lines and has a specific syllable sequence of 5, 7, 5, 7, 7. It was traditionally one person would write the first 3 lines of the tanka, and another person would write the last 2 lines. The first 3 lines were the beginning of the chain and set the tone for the tanka. They were called the haiku. Eventually, people started writing just the first 3 lines, and these 3 lines were given the name haiku. Here's an example of a haiku. Precipitation brings more anticipation and contemplation. Now that we know the rules of poetry, here they are in terms of the haiku. In a haiku, we have 3 lines made up of 5, 7, and 5 syllables. A haiku is only 1 stanza. There are no constraints to its rhythm, and yes, they're read aloud, but most often they're read slowly. What exactly is the haiku? Well, as previously stated, it's 3 lines with a syllable sequence of 5, 7, 5. It is a moment in time captured like a photo. It's a moment in nature or human nature. The first line or 2 is the image. The last line or 2 explains how you feel about it. Haiku has emerged as one of the most popular poetic forms of the 20th and 21st centuries. The form, with its brevity and pinpoint illumination of the spiritual, appeals to a contemporary audience that yearns for meaning in a quite chaotic and rushed world. In some ways, haiku dovetails with some aspects of postmodernism in its capacity to reveal telling moments and express spiritual loneliness. Many poets, including Alan Watts, Robert Haas, and Jack Kerouac, have written and been influenced by the form. There are haiku societies in almost every country, and there are many books, journals, and websites devoted to the art of writing haiku. Here's another example of a haiku. Spontaneous growth enlightens the simple mind of a little child. Here's some common questions about haiku. Do you have to be exact on the syllables per line? Yes. If you are doing traditional haikus, you must stick to the syllable sequence of 5, 7, 5. In this class, we are writing traditional haikus, so we need to stick with that sequence. However, contemporary haiku writers often will bend the rules, adding syllables or deleting syllables as necessary. Does it have to be about nature? Haikus are about nature. They need to be about nature, or the human condition. So we need to look at things that are living. And do many people write haikus these days? Yes. Haiku is still a very popular form of poetry that is written throughout the world. This week, you will be taking some time to write 5 haikus that will be graded based upon your topic and staying to the form. In addition, there are some questions about this video in the assignment, so please make sure that you answer all those questions as completely as possible in order to receive full credit on the assignment. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me throughout the week, and have a good week. Thank you.